computer. And it's recording. Great. Okay, we are here with the first virtual garlic tour with the Minnesota Premium Garlic Project and sponsored by Sustainable Farming Association. And this evening we're going to be touring virtually the Five Sisters Organics garlic operation. They're located just a few miles outside of Bemidji. And before I get into that, I'd like to remind you of a couple of things coming up, events that we have going on with the Garlic Project opportunities. On July 11th at 8 o'clock in the morning, we try to scatter these out so that different people's schedules can be accommodated. But on Saturday, July 11th, 8 o'clock in the morning, we will tour the Kaufman garlic operation, Kaufman Garlic and Apples. Tom and Marie Kaufman are very seasoned garlic growers. They won lots of different awards, and they really know what they're doing with garlic. They're located down near Owatonna area. So the information is up on the Premium Garlic website or webpage now to go ahead and register for that one as well. And so that if we really mess up this one tonight, we get a second chance with the Kaufmans, so we're not going to mess up. And then if you are a market grower, garlic grower, and you would like to be listed in the if you're an upper Midwest garlic grower, and would like to be listed in the Minnesota Garlic Festival directory to help sell your garlic, we're opening that up to everybody this year with a couple of caveats. And if you go to the Garlic Festival webpage, mngarlicfest.com, then you can see how to get into that directory, and it will only cost you a garlic bloat nematode test and a membership to Sustainable Farming Association, which is a heck of a deal. So with the format tonight, what we'd like to do is keep everybody's mics muted except for the Five Sisters and their whole posses that they seem to have with them in their different locations. If you have questions to ask, as I'm sure you will, you can ask those with the chat function. And you can either direct those just to me and I will interpret those, relay those on to the presenters. Or you could, if it's a question that maybe you want other garlic growers to see, you can ask everybody, address it to everybody. And we had, in one of our workshops, we had a lot of discussion going on the side with the chat, people answering each other's questions, like it's kind of like talking in class without being annoying. We're going to meet all five of the Five Sisters from Five Sisters Organics as we go along, but I'd like to start out with a short introductory video. Now, you may have to do a little playing around with your own volume levels as this starts to play. And if we really need to, it was suggested to me yesterday by Chris Kudrna, who's here on this one, on this call, that we might have to play the first one a second time if everybody doesn't get it. And then we'll be all set to go for the rest of the time. But we're going to start off with Ruth talking from the farm to get this whole thing rolling here.
Hi, and welcome to Five Sisters Organics Farm. Our farm is located in Bemidji, Minnesota, right on Highway 2. You'll hear the traffic behind us. It's about 6.5, 7 miles east of Bemidji. My maternal great-grandfather homesteaded this property in 1901. About 45 years later, my grandma and grandpa Christensen bought the property, and they had milk cows and pigs. On this lower area, there's about 10 acres. The farm is a 110-acre organic farm. And up that hill, that's where the 100 acres are. There's about 70 acres of pasture land and about 30 acres of cropland. We rent it out to a local farmer who hays it and then also brings in his cows for the summer. So this lower 10 acres is where we have created our garlic fields. In 2015, my sisters and I inherited this farm from my parents who had purchased it from my grandma and grandpa. And even though all 5 of us live in the cities, we decided we wanted to keep it. This is our history. This is our heritage. We love it here. We love bringing our kids here. I'm sure you've seen our 2 grandsons tootling around on the golf cart. And that's what this farm is about. It's about family, it's about faith, it's about farmland, and we love it.
Well, for a moment there, I thought maybe you also had a side business there on the farm with a golf course. But obviously, it's just you're getting video bombed there. So there aren't any questions yet on the chat, and that's completely understandable. I think I'll go ahead and run the second video that unless one of the 5 sisters wants to say something before the second video that more introduces the actual garlic itself.
Is it okay? Leave that second video to
Oh geez. Okay. Okay, so
that's not going to work.
Yeah, Becky, we've got a microphone problem.
Aaron, why don't you mute while Becky talks?
Okay, does that help?
I'm having a flashback actually from hearing that. No, it's not
Yeah,
better
no. There, Karen's
So if you want to, Becky, you could put something, tell us what it is you want to say in the chat while we're working on the microphone problem, or I could go ahead and run the second video.
See, I keep freezing up. This is our unstable network here.
Uh-oh.
I wonder if Sawyer jumped on his.
You should mute it though if they can still hear.
Okay, so I'll do that. I'll go ahead and
I was just wondering if we could save the video until after scene 3, because it kind of fits into that area.
okay. I don't have your
But
script.
we'll do whatever you are. You're the boss.
All right. Well, let's show the videos, and then I'm just going to turn the script over to the 5 sisters. How about that? We're going to do this just like we rehearsed.
Okay, turn your volume up. I'm going to go sit. I'll go sit outside. Will that help?
Okay, let's go ahead and mute over there now, Becky. Okay, here we go. Second video, introducing the garlic.
Here we are at the garlic field. This is one of 3 fields that we have on the property. They are each just under a 1/4 acre apiece. This year we have planted 7 different varieties. We have 1 Rocambeau, which is a Spanish Roja, and then we have 6 porcelains: Majestic, Music, Italian Red, Romanian Red, Armenian, and Montana Giant. We've tried purple stripes in the past. We have decided as a group of owners here that we want a larger bulb and larger cloves. The purple stripes were just a little bit too small for us. We've also discovered that our porcelains grow best in our soil. Last year when we planted here, up in the upper left-hand corner there, we lost about 30% of our crop. We were a little nervous about planting there again, wondering what would happen, but we wanted to try it. And as you can see, it has come up. We have probably 99% of our crop has come up. We planted just over 12,000 cloves last year, and it has really come up well. We measure the garlic on a regular basis, and yesterday when we measured it, some of our garlic is 37 inches tall. We try and measure the same one all the time so we can compare it. We're writing it down, keeping track of how it's growing from year to year.
Okay, So those were our two videos that were shot at the farm. And at this point, I'm going to drop into the background and turn things over to the five sisters who have a script for the rest of this. And I will interrupt it from time to time as questions may come up on the chat. So take it away, five sisters. Don't everybody talk at once.
Who goes first?
Okay, Becky, were you gonna start or?
Sure. Maybe we'll introduce each one of us just to start with, and then Kathy's going to start with the. We thought we'd just walk you through the whole process, starting with planting all the way through, and then we have a slideshow, and then we'd love questions. But you may also have questions after each section. So there are five of us, and I am the oldest, and I'm Becky. I live in Ham Lake, Minnesota, down in the cities. We all live within about 5 miles of each other. Next.
I'm Ruth, and I'm in Blaine, Minnesota. I am actually second in line. So it kind of looks like we're going to go in order, which is what we do quite often. Yeah. Kathy?
That would be me. I'm number 3. My name is Kathy, and I also live in Ham Lake, Minnesota.
And I'm Karen. I'm number 4, and I live in Shoreview. Is Joan on?
Joan, it doesn't say she's on mute.
Nope, it doesn't. Well,
Aw.
Joan is waving at us.
That's Joan. Joan also lives in Shoreview, Minnesota. So
Joan, maybe you could try your phone, or you troubleshoot until we get to your area. All right, Kathy, why don't you start us off with planting?
I will. Okay. Okay, my scene is planting. I was just going to kind of take you a little bit through our history of how we did things in the past and how we've evolved over the last few years. This was our 5th year. We started out very small. We just had 4 raised beds in what was my mother's garden. And we just planted a few there, and the 2nd year we moved on to a smaller field, and everything done very by hand. We've gotten better since then, but we were poking holes with a pipe to make our holes in the ground, and harvesting all by hand and everything. But for the last couple of years, we've created a few new things. The slideshow that I put together that you'll see at the end takes what I'm saying here, and you'll be able to see it all in order. It's kind of hard to explain it without the pictures, but here's what we do. We gather together. Our pattern is the whole family, us 5 girls plus husbands, kids, grandkids, everybody meet at the farm twice a year, once for planting and once for harvest. And it becomes a very big, fun family weekend and lots of work to do. We start the planting process a day or two before everybody gets there by plowing up the fields nice and soft, rototilling them, plowing them, tilling them, I guess it is. And getting that ready, popping the cloves all together in one spot, and we have done both soaking and not soaking in fish emulsion and vodka. The first couple years we did, then a year ago we didn't, and this year we did again. We'll see what the difference is. And then freshly tilling the land that same day. My brother-in-law has built us what we call a dibbler. that we pull behind whatever vehicle we're using. Last year, I'll just talk about this last year. We created our rows 5 feet apart. The dibbler has 4 rows of holes in it. So we have 4 rows of garlic in each 5-foot section. And the reason we used the 5-foot section is because we had to fit it behind the vehicle that we were pulling it with. So that determined how far apart our rows were going to be. And we used my car, put the dibbler through the freshly tilled soil, made the holes. Last year we had the dibbler also, which was a tremendous time saver for us of poking holes. But we still planted by hand last year, popping the cloves into each hole. This year, we came up with the idea of putting a trailer behind the car, and we laid on our tummies on the trailer with a thing of seed between us and drove the car, and we were backwards putting the seeds in or the cloves in each hole as we moved. So each year, we're evolving into a little bit better methods of being able to plant more efficiently. But that's really all the equipment we use. We till, we use the dibbler, and this year we use the trailer for planting.
Well, I have
What's next?
I have a quick question about that.
Okay.
Did you like daisy chain the dibbler and the trailer? Or did you dibble first and then come?
We did not. We dibbled first, put all of the rows down, and then swapped out behind the vehicle, the trailer.
How did you get the car to go that slow?
That was tricky, actually. You know, I tried driving it once. I didn't do very well at all. You are barely moving. But yeah, the people that are in the back of the trailer are screaming, "Stop, stop, stop, wait a minute." And then you'd have to stop, and they'd catch up on their rows because they're stretched way out here like this. But it was a whole lot easier on our bodies than bending over and putting each of those cloves into those holes. So it worked way better than the previous year. But it was a good, efficient way to do things.
Okay.
You'll see pictures of it.
All right.
Good. Was that it for you, Kathy?
That's it for me.
All right. Well, I have the next section, if we can just keep moving. And I'm kind of talking about our schedule as far as how we do things up in here. And I was thinking, first of all, we were raised by a mother who we are determined could run a small country. So then we've got these 5 sisters who could run small cities, I'm sure. So we have a lot of ideas and a lot of organizing. And so we meet and we plan out our schedule for the year. And then things like COVID hit and everything changes. And so we all take turns coming up to the farm. We bought a family camper, an RV that we stay in because we rent out the farmhouse to a family, and they do some goat raising on a different piece of property, and they're very respectful of our organic ways, and they're just gems. So we are appreciative of them renting the home. So we stay in the camper and take turns, and we have a weeding schedule. And we hire, this year, this is the first year we've done this, we're hiring weeders, and we work with them, and we just have 4 weeders, 3 hours a Saturday, and get as much as we can done, and then that's separate from the picking of the scapes and everything. So that's kind of how we do that. One thing I wanted to share is when we planted, we have always covered with straw, and we put about 6 inches of straw over our garlic, and we leave it on. We do not take it off. So that's still there. Of course, with the weeding, you get a little bit of loss there, and we beef up where we feel like we need to for weeding purposes, but that works pretty well there. As far as diseases, we have been really thankful that we haven't had issues with that. We did test last year for the nematode, and we're negative, and so that's good. And my main role is I work with the MCIA, who is our certifying board for organic. And so I work with all the compliance. And so if the sisters have products that they're going to use, they come through me, and then I work as the communicator with the MCIA organization. And I keep the big book. And then I meet usually with another sister, with the inspector, and kind of handle that whole end of things. And if there's no questions, we move on to the next one.
Can we
Okay.
back up to me for just 1 second?
Yeah.
Because I forgot to tell what all 5 of us sisters have an area of the company that we are in charge of. And we work really well together that way. Mine is the finance. So I do all of the rental agreement and the home and the repairs and all that stuff, but I do the finance part of the corporation. Karen does the organic portion, I do the finance portion. And the others will introduce themselves.
Okay, so my areas of responsibility are field development and prep and soil health, of which I had no idea when we divvied this out what soil health was possibly going to mean, but I just learn as I go, and I learn from all of you, and I go to the Moses conference and the SFA conference, and I learn wherever I can and take notes. So I'm learning soil health. And then also because my husband likes to play MacGyver on the farm, I also am in charge of research and development as far as developing new equipment to make our processes more efficient, and just have better processes. So those are kind of my 2 areas. So I'm going to actually talk about what I do with cover crops. And I want you to know I am really just learning. And so, but what I'm developing are 3 fields, 1/4 of an acre apiece, that we will rotate. So they'll have 2 years off and 1 year on with planting. And so we do a 2-year cover crop rotation. And this is the first year that our 2020, planting 2020 will be the first year that we actually get to go into a field that I've had 2 years to develop. So I'm hoping, and you guys can set me right or wrong, I'm hoping that because of what we've been putting into our soil, everything's going to start getting better. Because I'm improving organic matter and the levels of it. And then also the weeds. I read about some of you guys that hardly weed at all, and I'm wondering how in the world that happens, because the field that we've had to be in, I didn't get a chance to prep. And we have weeds enough that we couldn't keep up with it, and we've had to hire out some teenagers from this area to help us, like Kathy mentioned or Karen mentioned. So anyway, for a 2-year cover crop rotation, I just started listening and reading. And so for the first year, after we harvest, I will do a planting of tall fescue, medium red clover, and winter rye. And then that next spring, which I count as my first year off, we mow it. We start mowing early before the winter rye has a chance to get too high. And then we mow that field all summer long. And then that fall, that field heads into just winter rye, or we till it up. I'll till it up, just winter rye. And then that next spring, so I'm prepping it. This is the 2nd year. We're going to get it prepped for planting. Spring oats, and then 3 rotations of buckwheat. So I do soil testing. We've a couple of times have gone through an ag consultant Sometimes I just send it to the University of Minnesota. And Kathy mentioned kind of the equipment that I have. Our MacGyver, a couple of our MacGyver husbands got the 1956 farm awl that my great grandpa bought working. And he has the old 3-point hitch on it. So he has a couple of implements, and one of them is a disc. So for a while, we were, using the farm awl with the disc. And then my uncle, my 81-year-old uncle who lives across the street, he would come over with his tiller and help us with the tilling, which he loves because he grew up on this farm. And we love having him here. And then I use my 4-wheeler. I have, when I spray on 2 Mike's Fish for a fish emulsion. In fact, this morning, I'm on my 2nd round of buckwheat in the field that's going to be planted this year. I mowed down the buckwheat. We tilled it up, and then I put down 2 Mikes, and then I just seeded it. So, and it's drier than dry up here, so we're going to have to water to really get some buckwheat. But I use the 4-wheeler for all of those things, for seeding and pulling the harrow, and yeah. So we have simple equipment, but it's working for us.
Becky, if I could interject a question. So someone didn't catch with the winter rye and the clover, what was the other thing that is in that mix?
It's a tall Cora fescue that I'm getting from Albert Lee Seed.
And fescue is a grass?
It's a grass.
And that one is a perennial?
Yeah, so it's a mix. It's a mix of a grass and yeah, I'm just looking up my notes for. Yeah, that's the grass, and then the clover is a legume, so it's that mixture in there. Mm-hmm. And then the winter rye goes in, I think, kind of as the bed to kind of for the bedding, kind of keep it.
Yeah, it's sod forming. So.
Yeah, it's sod forming that first year, and we mow it. That way, I'm not continually. I figure, man, you guys can give me some advice. I'm not continually turning over new cover crops. So for that first solid year, we get to just mow. So.
That sounds good. On those soil, I don't know if you're done with your part of the presentation yet or not.
I am. So anybody has questions.
On those soil tests, I'm kind of curious what kind of soil organic matter, SOM, you were getting. What is the organic matter looking like?
Well, it's been pretty low. From what I understand, I'm supposed to be aiming like for a 6 organic matter. The field that we're in right now, when we tested last fall, I had raised from in the 1s to a 4.7 just by putting in a couple rounds of buckwheat. So and putting in what was recommended by our consultant. So I have not now tested the field that we'll use for 2020 to see how much I've improved it. But that had a low 3, I think, 3 point something organic matter. So yeah, that's one thing that we're really trying to build up.
Well, going from a 1% to a 4.7 is pretty remarkable, actually.
That is remarkable. I thought so too.
And I think we've talked about before, or I've talked about in different, if you ask folks like Dr. Carl Rosen at the university, soil science chair, he'll say, get your organic matter up and everything else will start taking care of itself.
All right. That's what I'll aim for.
Yeah. So you can, if something isn't quite working, then you certainly look at your nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, sulfur. Okay, let's see. And where did you? They want to know about your consultant. Who did you get?
Ruth, do you remember the name? He was up in 94.
Yeah, his name is Gary Borgendale. Jerry, you get his name.
It's Glenn Borgerding, actually.
Glenn Borgendale. Okay.
Borgerding.
He told us all about you, Jerry.
Yeah. Well, Glenn is he's with Ag Resource Consulting, out of Albany.
That's what, Albany. I was going to say Albert Lee, but I knew that was not right, but it is Albany. Yes.
And he and his partner in the firm there are very geared towards organic production. And I use them on my farm as well. And I'm not recommending them in particular, but you want somebody who knows vegetables, and is able to not just talk soil structure and amendments, but really knows vegetables. Root crops is even better if they know root crops. And then, of course, if you're planning on doing things organically, then having somebody that's well versed in organics. Okay, so who's next?
I guess I'm up next, and I am Ruth. I am in charge of the planting and the harvesting in this organization. So Kathy went over the planting for me, so I'm going to talk about harvesting tonight. And we have learned a lot as we've gone along. The first year we did a lot of reading, a lot of looking up on the internet, trying to find information on when we were ready to harvest. And we really kind of go by the leaf and watching how many leaves we've got left in the green leaves and how many yellow ones have died off. We've also gone by the general rule of 3 to 4 weeks after we pick our scapes. Typically it's 4 weeks after we pick our scapes that we start to plan on that. Well, actually this last week, we picked scapes last weekend, and this last week we had Becky pull some of the garlic and see if cloves were starting to form and how the size of them and what they were looking like. And we will do that again in another week or two. And just as we get closer to the 4th week, we will really start to watch it closely and go by the leaves. One of the things with us is we try and pick a date, but we've always said that the weather and the garlic dictates when we actually all have to go up there and do that. And because we are a ways away, and our families all live down here with us, all of our children and grandchildren live down here in the Twin Cities. So we always say, please set aside 3 weekends from mid-July to the first weekend in August, and don't make any major plans, and we will try and harvest during that time. And then we do the same thing in the fall, set aside a couple different weekends for planting, and there again, weather dictates that for us. So we just really pull up everybody that we can, and the kids all love it, and the grandkids are loving it, and we just all get together, and that's what we do. We actually do have a big lunch out at the farm, and we do invite our cousins and our aunts and uncles and everybody else who wants to come out and look at our process and watch our process and help with our process. Last year we had a couple additional people. My daughter's in-laws came up, and she had just had a baby, so they came up to help with the baby, and so they also helped out with the process. And it seems like one of us will bring 1 or 2 extra people every time that we go up there to help out. So our labor force kind of gets fairly large, but we all have our jobs that we do, and we have it organized with who's going to pull and who's going to clean and who's going to bundle and who's going to hang it in the drying barn, and the order that we're going to hang it in the drying barn, and we just all work together and get it done. As far as our cleaning process goes, the first year we planted about 550 bulbs, and we kept all of those for ourselves. And we were just kind of experimenting with, the different types and the different flavors and how they dried. And we wanted to see how well they stored. And so we had different varieties that first year that we all split up, and we actually cleaned them that year. We pulled off the bottom couple leaves before we hung them up to dry. And no, I take that back. The first year we did not clean them that well. We just kind of hung them up, and we brushed the dirt off and got all the dirt off of that, and then we hung them up and dried. The second year, we actually cleaned them and we pulled off the bottom leaves and had them looking nice before we hung them up and dried. And we thought that that was really a lot of work. It slowed down our process. We had our pullers so far ahead of our cleaners, and our cleaners were kind of cleaning as fast as they could, but those that bundled were kind of up to the cleaners, and so we were going to clean it after we dried it. And so that was last year. We cleaned it after we dried it. We hung it, dried it, and then when we took it down, we went ahead and cleaned it then. And last year after that, we decided that we're going to go back to cleaning at harvest because we've got the help then, and it just seemed to work a little bit better. Even though we thought it slowed us down quite a bit, we just decided that it worked better to clean it at harvest. So this year we're going to go back to cleaning it at harvest and focusing on that spot and putting additional people there and seeing how that goes. So that's kind of our, and then sizing. The second year that we planted, we tried to size before hanging. And then we thought, well, they change size after they've dried, so why do that? So the third year then, as we sorted out for seed, that was when we sized our garlic. And we did the same thing last year. We sized it as we sorted out for seed, and what are we going to sell, what are we going to keep, and that kind of a thing. And then, when we do bundle it, we do bundle it in bundles of 10. And I think Kathy will have a picture of our drying barn and how it looks inside the drying barn. We could probably talk about that when we bring up some of the pictures. But we do hang it in bundles of 10, staggering it, and then mark the rows, of course, with what they are, the variety. We cure it for 3 to 4 weeks. We have a long, it used to be my grandpa's pig barn, which we've cleaned all out and scrubbed it down. But we've got our poles in there that we hang from the ceiling, and then we've got ropes hanging down from the poles, and we tie our bundles down there. And then we've got big fans that we have purchased, and we have both ends of the door, both ends of the drying barn, and we take the windows out and we put just screens on the windows during the drying season, and we just have fans that blow the air in and out of there, and it has worked very well. One of the years we had, because we didn't have as many fans, we had the gentleman who's renting our house from us volunteered to go out every day and move the fans around for the garlic and help us out in that manner. Last year, I think one of us were up there most of the time, and we had more fans, so we were able to get the air movement around in that barn really well. And then we go back up at when it's done curing, and we up there we cut the tops off and we put it in buckets and bags and whatever we can find. We've got some burlap bags and some mesh bags that we bring it, and we haul it down to the cities, and then we actually divide it up for sales down here. That's what we do. So any questions on that?
Well, I have one.
Okay.
Well, actually, I have two. When you say you're actually peeling off the outer 2 leaves at harvest time to clean it, and then do you also clip roots at that time, or there's
No, we usually just really brush out the roots. We take a little toothbrush and brush them out, or we just kind of rub it in our hands and we leave the roots long.
Okay.
At the time we cut the roots off when we cut the tops off and package it up for sales.
Okay. And when
we
you
do get
say,
as much of the dirt out of that as we can.
Great. Yeah. So when you're selecting, you mentioned selecting your seed stock. So you're separating that out after you've cured, right?
Yes.
And what are you looking for?
Well, the first couple of years, like we said in the video, we had some purple stripes and things like that. And the first thing we do is we sit down and we decide what we thought grew really well, what kind of easy to harvest, pull out of the ground, those types of things. So we decide what we're going to keep, or which varieties we're going to keep going with the next year, or if we want to try a new one. So then when we do size them, we actually do look for the larger cloves along with the larger bulbs, but we look closely at the size of the cloves and not just the bulb itself when we keep our seed, when we pull out for seed. We have not sold seed yet. We've still, as we've been increasing our crop every year, we've ended up buying seed to supplement what we've kept of our own seed. And we would like to get away from actually having to buy seed. So we have decided that we were not going to sell seed. Now this year we'll see what the crop looks like and how we, how much we keep and how much we end up buying. I see a couple of questions have come in. We have always bought our garlic seed from Keene Organics in Wisconsin. Is where we have.
Asked about shelf life.
And somebody, okay, so that's where we buy our seed.
There's a question about using manure.
Shelf life, our typical shelf life, I know I'm still using garlic that we harvested last fall. Or last summer. And so we always say, to keep it in a cool, dark place. I keep mine under my stairs in the mesh bags, and I put it in a wire basket, and it just sits down there, which is always quite dark, and it seems to keep well there for me. But yes, I'm still using, I'm almost out, don't have much left. I might have to go for a couple weeks without any, but I'm still using what we had from last year. Anybody else enjoying that one?
I think Joan was going to cover storing and how she's done some a little bit of studying on that. I
Sorry,
thought
Joan.
good. We find that Spanish Roja is our really only short storage one, but mine are looking good too. But I do the same thing. I keep them in our mesh bags and in a dark room. So.
Okay. Do I have volume this time?
Yes, you do, Joan. Sounds good.
Okay.
All right, you're up.
All right.
Do we want Becky to address the manure question first?
She did type it in. Becky, do you want to speak to it?
Oh, she's already answered it on the, she answered it on the chat.
I did answer it in part in the notes, and I'm looking something up to see what other amendments I've added in, especially to the field we're in now. So I'll get back to that.
Okay. I'll address it. So in storage, I actually have a really nice little space under my stairs, and I have a hanging rack intended for shoes, and I actually hang my garlic in the mesh bags in the cool dark area, and I'm still using my garlic from last year. And probably, the thing that we think about is, well, we buy enough garlic to last until we're just down to scapes, and then we use the scapes until we have our garlic again. So hopefully that's the cycle that everything can work on. I'm sister number 5. I live in Shoreview. I have volume. Yay. I have 2 seats in the business. My first seat, well, one of my seats is that I have a history of owning a business for 20 plus years, and we implement a particular method in my business called EOS traction. So I'm a little bit of a consultant to the Five Sisters Organics Farm in business consulting. And so I run the meetings and I help facilitate the long and short range planning that we do. We look at what do we want to do for our 5-year goals, and then break that down to a 1-year goal and break that down to quarterly goals. And I help facilitate that just based on my experience in owning a business. I've also helped introduce the idea of all the sisters having individual seats in the business where we are 100% responsible for our seat, although we help each other with the work. So there's a high accountability, clear parameters on who's responsible for doing what, and that really helps everyone get along well and know what they're responsible for, and then know how to ask for help when they need that in the business. So we run it as a formal business. My other seat is in marketing, and you know, I have to say, like, with all the social media people out there, we don't market hard, right? Our first year, you know, we got up a website and we got a Facebook page, but mostly we really want to just keep the garlic to ourselves to figure out how to store it, how to use it, what we liked about the different tastes and the different varieties. Then we expanded to some farmers markets and some online sales. Last year, we had a great opportunity with a relative who had a very large following in his social media network. And when he put our information out in his network, we sold out of our garlic, even sometimes before our friends and family bought it. So this year for marketing, our plan is to have kind of a quieter friends and family week of sales online. What we'd like to sell online are sister selected packs. So you can have kind of a smaller pack that will, you know, introduce you to gourmet garlic and get to know the different varieties and the different tastes, or the I need a pack that's going to last me through the winter kind of pack. And we want to, for the most part, select those varieties out of the best and brightest that we have available when somebody places an order. And then as we kind of get to the last of our stock, then we'll still select the best of what we have left. So that's our strategy for this year. We don't plan on being at any farmers markets. And we may end up in some newsletters. That'd be great. We love that. We've also participated recently in the Facebook group, Minnesota Farm Direct. Is that the right, somebody nod, is that the right name for it? Linking farmers to consumers. And so we'll advertise there as well. But otherwise, really our Facebook page and our website blog are the main ways that we advertise, as well as our individual Facebook pages where we talk about our garlic use. Any questions on marketing or the business aspect of how we do our planning?
Well,
Okay.
we do have that side discussion going on in the chat, which is very nice. Yeah, with watering and with and if I could ask a question about the gypsum and the potash, well, especially the gypsum, were you looking to adjust the pH level of the soil with that?
You know,
Or did you do it because Glenn
we
said
sent
so?
it off to Glenn and he told me to put it on and I just followed instructions.
All right. Well, that was kind of a leading question, because Glenn has over the years certainly recommended that I do some different gypsum mixes, and folks probably all know that we're looking for a range of pH of the acidity or alkalinity that is pretty neutral for garlic, and a lot of times soil has to be amended in order to help balance that. And we can go into more detail about that at another time if you like. And question about organics. Go ahead.
I've never heard of something called elephant garlic, so the answer to that, Alessandro, is no, as far as I understand. Where do we get our organic straw? Is it okay to use organic hay? Which sister wants to take that?
Karen will.
We went through a guy in Rush City for organic straw, and we have stopped that. Actually, we have gotten, again, through the MCAA, we've gotten some information. We go local now, up here through Bemidji, and we get from a group here in town. So, but individually, it's kind of, this straw has been an issue that we have gone back and forth with MCIA on, as far as, does it need to be certified organic, does it not? And sometimes depending on, to be honest with you, sometimes depending on who you talk to, I just keep all the records. on it. So we are going local here, and but there is a fellow in Rush City that I've used, and honestly, I don't remember his name, and he was pretty reasonably priced. So, oh, and along this line, just as a funny little thing, our cousin with the large following. It really took us a bit by surprise. Again, another learning curve. We sold out in hours. I mean, we had to shut down our site. It was gone, and we had to refund, some people's money. So, again, every year we learn a little something, and so as far as our sales that goes, we're going to have to do things a little different on our website. So we've got a countdown as far as how much we've got. It was a blessing, to have that kind of a problem, but it's something we learned from, certainly.
And Nancy, who's in the Bemidji area, who wanted to know where we got our straw from. I'm trying to find his name, if I can quickly find it. I know he's just north of the airport, and when you drive in there, they have a big operation, and they make solar panels. And a whole bunch of solar panels outside of their place out there on just north of the airport there in Bemidji.
His name is Andy.
Andy, that's what it was. Did you know his last name?
I'm going to pull up what we submitted to MCIA last year and see if I can get it.
And we
Okay.
can put that into the chat as well, and folks up in
Okay.
that area. And people are often willing to go quite a ways to get good straw. And now, I don't know about with MCIA. I certify organic through MOSA. We're not required to put organic straw in order to retain organic certification on the garlic.
And we have found that as well. And yeah.
Okay, so all right, looks like you got Nancy settled there, and
Yes.
a question about organic or not organic. Do you think your customers would still buy from you? Is there a edge to being organic?
That's a really good question, and I think the first couple years, I don't think it would have mattered to some of the people, and I think for some people, though, that is what draws them, is the fact that we are organic. I do know that our cousin who has a following, he really does eat organic, and I think the people follow him are more of the organic ones, and I think that does give us an edge there, being organic, for them to buy our garlic. But it's hard to say. It's just a personal preference for some of the people and how they eat.
I think part of it for us also was my dad had this certified organic. So he had done all of the grunt work for us. And it was something that we thought, well, let's just continue. And if it works for us, this is awesome. And I like organic. I like that whole philosophy of knowing what is going into everything and being able to trust the food that we're eating. And so yes, I think for some people it wouldn't matter, but for others, I think it greatly matters.
Well, and if I could add quickly to that, if you're selling specifically seed garlic, or if a lot of your customers are for seed garlic, other organic growers are supposed to buy organic. So if you're not certified organic, those people aren't going to. And I certified several years ago, and I thought it wouldn't really make a difference. Well, there were 2 or 3 big orders that really made a difference because now they could buy from me. So there was mention of a slideshow, right? Or are we
We do
still?
have a slideshow.
All right.
Yes.
Let's see if we can get that to work.
I have, just while we were talking here and all of the presentations from my sisters, I decided to make a little change to it, and I took the timer off. So I'm going to click through manually because there'll be some slides we want to stop at and explain, since you didn't get to see it while we were talking. So it'll be kind of, I'll drive it instead of just let it go like I was going to, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
Okay. So can you guys see that?
Yeah.
I'm on?
Yep.
Okay. All right, there we are. That was our very first year. Those were the raised beds that we planted in the first year. But we've evolved since then, so now we're all in uniform. Okay, first few pictures are just of the farm so that you can kind of get a look at what you did see it on the video, but the farmhouse is rented, like we said. We have campers that we stay in. There's 2 of them on the land. It's up in the pasture. There's the old farm mall. The loafing barn. We're all about faith, family, and farmland, so we have lots of fun too. This is during harvest, just so the kids have something to do. Okay, planting. There's the dibbler that we talked about that my brother-in-law built for us, that we pull behind the car. And that's what it looks like when we're done. So there's our rows, showing you how spaced they are, kind of how it works for us. Here we are placing our cloves in the ground. That was the process. And then someone comes along behind with the rake and covers them over. Cover it with straw. Our first year we put straw in the aisles also. We did not, or our first few years we did that. We did not do that this year. Actually, our first couple years we used black fabric. We decided that was not good. You don't want to use black fabric and lots of metal pins when you want to till the land over and over again the next couple years. So we got rid of all of that, put straw in the next year, and then decided this last year not even to do that. So this is this year's field. All the weeding. Scape's time. It's last weekend picking scapes. Here's Becky's section. Tilling up the land. Whoops, sorry. That's what the buckwheat looks like. Sorry, you guys. Uh-oh. Harvest is all done by hand. Loosen it with a pitchfork. Pick it with our hands. Pawl it. And now they're peeling off the... I have someone at my house. Tying it into bundles here. first year we measured right on the spot, bundled according to size. We did not do that after that. There's our drying barn. Measuring, weighing, labeling, farmer's market, and website. Any questions on any of those?
We don't have pests.
You know what? We really have not had a pest issue at all.
No, our only thorn in our side is the weeds.
Hmm.
Is some of the weeds, has it been oats or wheat brought in with the straw?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I know of at least one other grower who's on this right now who's really had that problem in the past. And finding clean straw can be a real problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does garlic repel pests?
Well, it tends to keep people away from you. Oh, not the. The thing.
It is amazing though that even up there, I mean, we have tremendous amounts of deer and all that stuff, and we've never had problem with any animals in the gardens. So, or in the
Or,
field.
yeah, we have gophers in our grass as far as the lawn. They don't go near the garlic field.
Garlic.
It's a question about your pricing and if it includes shipping from your website.
No, that does not include shipping.
Carrie, you want to talk about your research for shipping?
I'm sorry, Joan, what?
Yeah, would you talk about your research and shipping costs?
You know what? We found that a lot of our buyers were from all over the country. So we were not able to use speedy delivery. When I've compared prices, speedy delivery is far cheaper than you using USPS. We have found that with shipping that we package and ship Mondays and Tuesdays to make sure, because it's amazing how many people have them delivered to their business offices. So we want to get them before the weekend, delivered. We add, and somebody else might have to tell up how much it was, it depending on poundage, how much we charge for shipping. Somebody also have to speak to that because I forgot how much it is right offhand. But if it was in the area here with the Dakotas, Wisconsin, Iowa, I would certainly stick with speedy delivery for shipping because they just are that much cheaper. But we found that, like I said, we're going all over the country.
A couple of years ago, we went to the White Bear Lake Farmers Market, and we finished selling out there. And then last year, we intended to go to both the Shoreview and the White Bear Lake Farmers Market. But because we sold out online in 24 hours, we canceled those, and we have not even signed up for a farmer's market this year because most of my friends didn't even get to order garlic because my cousin advertised before we even had a chance to give to family and friends. We love this online stuff. It really works for us, and we've built up a good base, and we also are always talking with our family and friends, and they actually go onto our website and order. We give them a sister code where they get free delivery. So they don't get, and then they come to our house or we meet them at church or, somewhere, and we hand off the garlic. So we're either shipping across the country to people we don't know or we hand off to our friends and family in the cities.
Is your price based on per pound?
Joan, you want to take that? We bag our garlic in half-pound mesh bags, and the minimum you know can buy is a half pound. Half pound for $7.50 is what we've done since the last 2-3 years that we've sold. And then we offer, like Joan was saying, we're even going to try simpler this year. Last year we gave people, out of our 7-8 varieties we had last year, we gave them an opportunity to buy a certain variety. We're not going to do that this time. We're going to, they get the sister pack, which is 1.5 pounds, or the family pack, which is 5 pounds, unless they are really good friends of ours. And then we'll hand pick out some of our friends' favorites.
So most of the people are obviously then buying as food.
Yeah.
And aren't as concerned about the variety.
Right.
Right. Whereas if you were selling to another grower, you would be
Right.
concerned about that.
Right. Kathy, somebody had a question. From the business side, do you get to write off equipment? Do you want to speak to that for a minute?
Our situation is a little unique in the fact that the farm itself and all the equipment that came with the farm is in a trust. So we have created a corporation that runs the business, runs the farming business, and everything that we've brought in through the corporation. So the newer stuff that we're using, yes, we do get to use that just like a corporation would use their equipment as part of our write-offs. But everything that was on the farm in the first place has to stay there because it's part of the trust. It's not, we can't expense it.
I like the discussion that's going on about how to come up with a price.
Yeah.
And that, what I'm seeing is a wide range of prices, but that 15 is sitting at $15 a pound is sitting pretty squarely in the middle of that. There are lower prices out there in Minnesota and higher prices. And inevitably people seem to be, if you're selling on the internet, like if you go to my website, you're going to see the price is higher than if you just came to my barn and bought it from me there. There's just more operating cost involved with selling on the internet. But some of the prices, look around. $15 can be a really nice deal when you start looking at other websites.
We give a range of sizes that we ship out. That 1.5 pounds is not like all 2.5-inch garlic. It's a variety of probably 2 to 3 inches. We keep everything over 3 inches for seed so far because we've kept expanding. I think somebody asked how much we planted. We've expanded every year. We went from 550 to the next year to 1,000, to the next year to 3,000, to the next year to 8,000, and this last year we planted 12,058 cloves. So, and we're gonna see how we handle 12,058 cloves. So far, so good, but we haven't gotten to the marketing part of it yet. So,
doesn't sound like you're going to have a problem.
Well, selling it might not be, but prepping it for sales. It took a lot out of us last year at 9,000, maybe because we saved the cleaning to the end, and it was just us 5 doing it. And then it happened so fast, and we wanted to get that garlic out fast. So it was a lot of pressure. We're just getting better every year, aren't we, girls?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, how would you like to take maybe a parting shot, each one of you? And I'm going to give you a kind of a leading question. I know there's some new growers who have tuned in here. What piece of advice would you give to a new grower? And then just what else is it that you just love about garlic? Start with.
Joan, are you ready? Should we start the youngest to the oldest this time?
You know, I'm gonna have to answer that more about the business than the garlic. Tread lightly when doing business with family members, and remember that their family relationship is the most important thing.
That's good. Well, because we all lived in the city and we inherited this farm at Bemidji, we needed something that we could do because we were all still working full time at the time. So we needed something that we could commute and do and not have to tend every day. So garlic worked well for us. And then we learned so much about garlic, and we kind of became these garlic snobs like everybody else. But it works for us. It works to be able to put it to bed in the fall and then not come up here for nearly 6 months again, and then a lot of time. And there's enough of us sisters that we can take turns and still have our lives in the Twin Cities. So for convenience, this has been a good one for us.
Kathy or Ruth?
I was frozen during the question, so I missed it. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, it's obviously whatever you want to say as a parting comment. And if you had one piece of advice to give to somebody who's just coming into growing garlic or thinking about doing it, what would you say?
I guess my biggest thing would be divvy the jobs. Like, I mean, it's phenomenal that we each have our own specific area that we deal with, even though we help everybody. That way everyone gets ownership and everybody gets help.
And
What I would say is have fun. I have so thoroughly enjoyed trying cooking with garlic in different ways. I think that's what draws me to the garlic. It really enhances the flavor of the food, and there's so many different things that you can do with it. And now I'm starting with garlic scapes. Last night we had some friends over and I tried a garlic scape chutney, and the recipe called for it to be cooked on the grill with naan bread and cheese on it. And I mean, it was so flavorful and so wonderful. And it was just a fun thing to experiment with and to try new things. And even up there weeding and the different things we've been trying during harvest. It's just, to me, been a lot of fun in seeing what works and what doesn't work, and then changing your mind. And don't be afraid to change your mind. Don't be afraid to try new things and find the joy in it.
Well, I really, oh, go ahead.
We've got one more sister.
Oh, I'm sorry. I lost count.
I would say for a new grower that you should start small. I appreciated the fact that we started planting 550 cloves and divided up between the 5 of us, and we learned about it. We learned how to cook. We learned what we like to cook. We learned how to store it. What stories sell, and as we've developed and grown, our stories have grown. And when you can talk passionately about something, and you've got the experience and you've got the story behind it. The only time we went to the White Bear Lake Farmers Market, I spent the first 3 weeks not selling a lot, but I talked for 6 hours solid, telling everybody the story of garlic and the story of garlic for me. And then we sold out, and they'd come back the next week, and then we sold out. But you just be passionate about what you're doing and start small. That would be my advice. Start small and tell a story.
And I really like how you did that, starting small, and you're willing to try another new thing. If something doesn't work, go ahead and get it out of there. If you don't like a particular variety because maybe it doesn't clean well or whatever, you'll be willing to let it go and try something else. And when you find what really works, then go with it. And I love that. I know there's other growers here who kind of approach their garlic as social enterprise. It's so that they can have community and relationship. Well, you've got family and obviously quite a large community wrapping around that, and it makes the work that much more fun. And
Yes.
if we're not going to have fun growing garlic, well, we need to go out and find a real job or something. But, all right. Well, unless there's any last minute points or questions, I would like to really thank all 5 of you and your extended families for joining us. I think it's wonderful that all of you could be here at once. And in another year or so, God willing, we'll have this tour at the farm and all be able to get together in person.
Yes.
All right, so thank you so much. We'll see you at the next one of these, and I'll go ahead and close the meeting at this point.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Terry.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.